So Back 4 Blood has been making some waves. A beta for a new zombie survival game from the original creators of the Left 4 Dead series will tend to do that. People have been clamoring for a Left 4 Dead 3 for years, but is this new title really the unofficial next in the series, or is it something different? But most of all, we need to ask, is it worth playing? In my normal full disclosure way, I want to say that the devs for Back 4 Blood give me access to the beta so I could make videos about the game, just like this one. So Back 4 Blood, the name kind of sets the tone for what you might expect, something more in line with revenge over mere survival. So an interview on Eurogamer with Chris Ashton, the co-founder and design director at Turtle Rock, the devs for this new title. One line that stood out to me was, "Our cleaners are more soldier-oriented, going out into the written world voluntarily and destroying nests and stuff like that." It does suggest something more of a change of tone from the Left 4 Dead games. These aren't people who have found themselves at a bad spot and then bandied together. These are folks with a base, Fort Hope, your starting location, and are choosing to go out into this world. So what is that gameplay like? Well, the tone might be different, but the core of what made Left 4 Dead's gameplay is still here in spades. If you like fighting hordes of zombies with a variety of weaponry, then you're likely to find things here you'll enjoy. I should say at this point that I was never much of a Left 4 Dead player when it was originally around. I don't have a massive nostalgia for the series. I've only really played more recent titles like the surprisingly good World War Z game. The gameplay is squarely focused on action though, and I should say here again, this is a beta with one campaign. There may be more variation at launch, but if you're looking for stealthier gameplay like the also rather good GTFO, effectively an avoid 'em up where you're trying to mostly not attract attention, then this felt like more an action route. That's not to say that there aren't tactics though. All variety of hazards are deployed for you to bump into and accidentally spawn hordes of zombies. Sorry, yeah, I know they're called ridden, but I keep saying zombies. Those moments felt more like things that you wanted to control the timing of though, or try and mitigate over just trying to purely stealth past. Your run-of-the-mill zombies are also interspersed with what are known as special ridden. In effect, elite enemies with special abilities that complicate matters to varying degrees. Rotund dudes have a habit of messily exploding, or tall boys with massive club arms need to be focused by the group, and those with advantage on their glowing weak spots need to concentrate on their aim. These specials feel pretty cool to fight, and certainly keep your attention. Can also lead to having normal zombies getting out of hand, while you focus initially on more pressing matters. And just a quick aside to say, if you are enjoying this video, please do tap that thumb up button, helps me out with YouTube and discoverability and all stuff like that. And if you tap the subscribe button right now as well, then I appreciate that too. Thank you so much. Difficulty was a difficult one. The mid setting of Veteran could actually be pretty difficult at times. There were certainly moments when my group struggled to clear levels and were overwhelmed. The first setting was way too easy though, almost to the point of dulling the experience of the game. Felt like you could just run around and not worry about the consequence of your actions, with the zombie density feeling particularly low. So if you're playing in a match-made lobby and you're in the slightly difficult position of not knowing how good your teammates are, is that middle difficulty tier going to be a nightmare for your random teammates? Well, I'm sure I don't want to play on easy, as that really doesn't feel like an achievement at all. The card system is an interesting addition to the whole genre. They're used in two ways in Back 4 Blood. First of all, you have your own personal cards that you unlock via supply lines. These feel like small optional battle pass-like runs of cosmetics with cards to unlock. You go through those tiers with supply points that you earn from completing maps. You can then make a preferred deck with these unlocked cards. If you like to go tanky, then maybe you want to include some cards that benefit your health and mitigate your damage. Like to go melee, then maybe you want cards that boost melee damage while also giving you enhanced life leech, and so on. It allows the creation of builds based on how you want to play. You create a deck, give it a name, and then when you load into a map, you get to pick a new card each time. By the end of the campaign, or maybe just the first map if you need to keep reloading and restarting, you've activated a number of different cards, and your character is notably different to play. The other side of the system are the corruption cards. These are drawn for your team when you load into the map. These might change environmental effects, the type of zombies that spawn, or even give specific types of zombies extra abilities like extra armor. Again, I must say, this is the beta, but the variation that this created didn't seem all that wild, though it did add an extra spice of loading in and not knowing exactly what awaited you. These are modifiers though. doesn't affect the structure of the map, it's not procedural in that way. Be interesting to see how this system is at launch, just how much effect these cards might have, and just how different they can make the experience of playing. Map length felt a little inconsistent, though I don't really know how it was in Left 4 Dead, to be honest. The first map of the campaign that was in the beta was a pretty quick affair, but then later maps were almost too long for me. Not for like concentration or anything, but more as the difficulty that some events had meant that if you wiped at the end, you had to go back to the absolute start. There were no checkpoints. You might argue that the knowledge that you're going to lose so much when you wipe helps raise the tension. To be honest though, for mid-tier difficulty settings, I'd have liked to have seen optional checkpoints to start at, rather than being flung right back to the start of the map. The map variation wasn't bad though. There were some urban, industrial, woodland, farmland, and a lot of suburban landscapes in just this first campaign. If the full suite of levels keeps up this diversity, it should hopefully give a real breadth of places to play in and help longevity. The gun handling felt pretty decent. There's certainly an impressive breadth of weapon options to buy or find during the map. Sniper rifles seemed of less use than you might imagine though. Faster firing alternatives or shotguns felt like a more natural fit to the maps I encountered. Also backing this up was the inability to carry two primary weapons, meaning that a sniper and an SMG wasn't something you could equip at the same time. Pistols shouldn't be overlooked though, often using higher caliber ammo, they are a real genuine alternative. And in fact, the Desert Eagle was probably my favourite gun to use from all that I tried. I think I really only had two main issues with the weapons in Back 4 Blood. First of all, and this will come as no surprise if you've watched any of my other recent videos, but the lack of power to much of the weapon audio felt like a shame. Some powerful weapons like fully belt-fed machine guns or shotguns often don't sound powerful when fired. They lack volume and impact and drama. I'm not looking for 100% realism here, it just robs the gameplay of a lot of satisfaction. The other main gripe was the attachment system, and as one friend mentioned, it seemed to often tell you what attachment you were about to use without telling you what you were about to replace. You're sort of looking at half the necessary information to make a decision. But the main issue I had was losing your attachments if you move to a new weapon. You may have a kitted up SMG, but actually prefer an AR that you just found, and sorry, those sights and those grips, they stay on the original weapon. It felt like this is perhaps not the fully fleshed out attachment system, like we might see things like moving them to a new weapon included at launch, because at the moment, the lack of ability to do that seemed sort of arbitrary really. For fans of the original game when it came out, and Left 4 Dead came out in 2009, it'll be a dozen years ago in November, Back 4 Blood feels like it's expected to be all things for all people. The original title was revolutionary, no doubt. It goes down as a pivotal time, with a new idea that stood up with its community to still be played today. The way the game felt with that physicsy source engine became part of that nostalgia. Being from so long ago, it's also seasoned with the nostalgia for that time in people's lives. That first time they played that new experience in a game can feel mind-blowing, and I know from experience that I often have rose-tinted glasses for quite what those games were actually like to play. So with all that being carried around in the heads of people who love Left 4 Dead, that's a long time for people to build up longing and hype. Back 4 Blood somehow has to be that pivotal game for those people, while also being a new game and IP in the gaming landscape of 2021. People may want more of the same game that they loved, but also moving it forward so it's a new experience, something of a tightrope for games design. It is a new game though, and it can be a bunch of fun. There are new ideas like that card system that can mean it offers some variation and replayability, but I'm sure there will be things that Left 4 Dead fans feel like are missing from what they wanted the follow-up game to feature. But Back 4 Blood isn't just a different game in name, it's also a different game in style to that franchise. If you are a Left 4 Dead veteran though, and have strong feelings, then please do leave a comment below right now. As someone who missed out on that hallowed title and release, I'm very interested to know your thoughts. Graphically, Back 4 Blood feels like it's in a really good spot. The world looks terrific with high detail and a real current gen feeling. There's also a suite of graphic options, and it also arrives with Nvidia's DLSS enabled, though I would say that the DLSS version that appeared in the beta seemed to be not working quite right. Some pretty prominent visual ghosting. Looking at the files, it looked like it might have been an earlier DLSS version that might have been at fault, but that turned out not to be much of a worry, as the game performance was basically superb. On this new system at 1440p, it basically stayed at my 142 frame cap, and if you do see it dropping below that, it's because of the recording software I was using for some of it. There was some odd moments in the Fort Hope lobby area with friends joining, but that didn't feature in the actual gameplay levels. Felt like the lobbies are maybe peer-to-peer and you only connect to a server when the actual map starts. In first person, the weapons, as good as they look, do take up a lot of screen real estate though. It's not something that's even reduced when you adjust the game's field of view. I think an option to scale them would be of benefit, and from the pre-order bonuses it looks like there are skins planned for those weapons too. Of particular visual highlight was the fog effect that can land on a map as one of the corruption cards. As a bit of a graphics nerd, I just thought it looked really good, not the usual Z-depth fog that we've seen for years. It looked like it had proper volume to it, reacted to lights and so on, and it added a nice bit of atmosphere to any map where it was enabled. If player numbers are any indication of hype and popularity, then almost 100,000 concurrent people is something of a triumph. For what some may see as a new IP, the message that the studio that brought the world Left 4 Dead seems to have really gotten through to people. And looking at the broadcast stats, a peak of over 400,000 people were watching Back 4 Blood streams during the beta too. Back 4 Blood's main pricing model is very much going to be buy to play, much like the original Left 4 Dead was. It's available on PC, Xbox and PlayStation, but I'm just going to be talking about the PC pricing here. There are 3 variations available to pre-order at the moment: Standard, Deluxe and Ultimate Editions. These range in price from the cheapest, Standard, at $49.99 in the UK, that's $59.99 in the US, to $89.99 for the Ultimate Edition, which is a cent off $100 in the US. For me, this pricing looks rather on the strong side. It's a significant sum for a title in 2021. The cheapest price lining up almost the same as the current pre-orders for the AAA juggernauts like Battlefield and Call of Duty. What sticks out most for me though is the lack of access to the first year's content drops via the annual pass for the Standard Edition, and I know that often happens with other AAA releases too. I just don't like the idea of spending almost £50 on a game and not even getting some of the content updates after. Where Back 4 Blood really makes sense for me is part of the Xbox Game Pass. It'll be on there day one, and if you've never had it before, then you can get your first month trial for £1, and then it's $7.99 per month after that. In the US, that's $9.99 per month, but you can still get just a $1 trial. It's not an ad or sponsored or affiliate or anything like that, but if you just look at the quality and quantity of the games in the Game Pass, Microsoft Flight Sim, Forza Horizon 4, Sea of Thieves, and so on, it really does look like one of the best subscription options available. So, Back 4 Blood, is it worth playing? I had a lot of fun with friends playing the beta. That co-op you versus the world feeling can be very satisfying, and Back 4 Blood feels like it has a lot to deliver. The varied weaponry and locations felt good, even in the limited capacity of the beta. And looking at the number of campaigns in the full game, I'm hoping there'll be a fair amount of content on release. I'll admit to only playing the PvP section in passing. It's a monster versus humans with some BR-like zone contraction towards round end, but I'll admit it really didn't keep my interest like the PvE content did. The scale of the game felt so much smaller there. That push into the vast sprawling map filled with hundreds of enemies was gone, so I just really focused on the PvE. I know for me though, it'll be a game that I only play with friends. I don't see myself queuing up with randoms. So again, like I said before, I kind of wish there was a way to buy multiple copies for friends at a discount. And speaking of pricing, being part of the Xbox Game Pass really does open this game up for recommendation for me here. There's clearly a lot of love and effort gone into making this title. It's just that the pricing feels on that strong side, though if you're an existing big fan of this genre, I can see why you could be won over. And in that vein, as this game tries to be both a fresh face for 2021 and a bridge back to Left 4 Dead heritage, we find a title full of that same challenge but with some variations with that new card system. I would like to see a more widespread effect for those cards, both in player builds and corruption, but there's no denying that they add an enjoyable variation to the gameplay. But what do you think of Back 4 Blood? Excited for something new from the Left 4 Dead team? Strong feelings about what changed? Or maybe you're just new to the genre? Let me know all your powerful thoughts and feelings by leaving a comment below right now. As always, I'll be reading every single one of them. Yes, even yours. If you did enjoy this video, or indeed any of my others, please do tap the subscribe button, the small bell next to it, and set it for all notifications. That way you'll know when your next video is ready. As always, thank you for all the support, and thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Oh yeah! It's no problem. You wouldn't even have to ask.